In 1998, clergy of Holy Resurrection Orthodox Church in Boston, along with their wives, began meeting regularly to pray for guidance about the future. Among them were the deacon and his wife, who were to become the main benefactors of our monastery. They prayed especially to the Holy Archangel Michael and St. John Maximovich. Our benefactors felt inspired to look for land outside the city. They wanted it to serve as a retreat for our church in Boston. On the very day of St. John's repose, after 8 months of searching for the right piece of land, they found it. A 68-acre parcel in north-central Massachusetts, abutting several thousand acres of state forest. The sellers were devout Roman Catholics. A realtor had suggested they sell the property in smaller parcels to maximize their profit. They refused, preferring to sell to someone who would appreciate and care for the natural beauty of the land. The sellers also nourished hopes that the property would be used to serve the church. They found ideal buyers in our benefactors, who for their part found it significant that the place was already a place of prayer. In many respects, the land was ideally situated. Warwick, 2 hours west of Boston, was accessible, yet remote enough to offer a quiet retreat from the city. The town is unusually quiet and rural, having only 800 residents, and is kept from excessive development because over 50% of the town has been designated protected land. 12 years later, Holy Resurrection's clergy held another special meeting, along with 2 seminarians who would become the first brothers of our monastery. They discussed the future of the property in Warwick. Over the years, our benefactors had hosted a number of summer camps for children and the annual men's retreat of the parish, but they had been prepared to offer the property more fully in service of the church, even calling their home the parish farm. The seminarians wanted to be monks, but they had no desire to leave the Bulgarian Diocese. We agreed that we would try, with the blessing of our beloved prelate, Metropolitan Joseph, to start a new monastery in the Bulgarian Diocese at the property in Warwick. Bishop Daniel, then vicar to Metropolitan Joseph, toured the property and discussed with us the possibility of starting a monastery there. Metropolitan Joseph visited the property and approved. He appointed Bishop Daniel first abbot of the monastery, and blessed us to take for our patron St. John the Baptist. After graduating seminary, the brothers worked to pay off school loans and make preparations for the new monastery. For the Nativity Fast, 2016, Bishop Daniel sent them to Holy Trinity Monastery near Sofia to gain experience of monastic life. In Bulgaria, they formed valuable ties with the Bulgarian Church, visiting Rila and other monasteries. On February 6, 2017, Bishop Daniel moved with the brothers to the new monastery in Warwick. Inherent to the monastic life from the days of the first monks are prayer and labor. God himself sent an angel to St. Anthony the Great to answer his prayer about how to be saved. The angel taught the hermit to divide his time between prayer and labor. Monks pray for themselves and for the whole world, and with their labor they provide for their own needs and also strive to have something left over for those in need. What we experienced in the monasteries of Bulgaria was a continuation of this tradition, and our brotherhood, under the direction of its spiritual father, aspires to be established in it. The daily work of the brotherhood includes cultivating the land, renovating our farmhouse into a monastic residence, chapel, and guest rooms, and hosting guests. Even under construction, the monastery provides a beautiful setting for prayer. It is secluded and surrounded by natural beauty. Our temporary chapel is rough, but provides all we need to experience the divine beauty of the services. Every day we serve midnight office, matins, divine liturgy or typica, 9th hour, vespers, and compline. The brothers are alone for most services, but the number of pilgrims is slowly growing, many of them families with young children. Spring and summer, the brothers can most often be found working in the fields. Our first spring we planted an orchard, grapevines, and a large vegetable garden. While we are still far from our ideal of self-sufficiency, our gardens provide a substantial portion of our food throughout the year. Glory be to God who gives the increase. Many of the monastery's resources grow without cultivation. Wood is our primary source of heat, gathered from our more than 12 acres of forest. Wild blueberries and strawberries abound here. Having been taught by our spiritual father not to let these resources be wasted, we learn to fell trees and process lumber and firewood. And a week or so every summer is dedicated to picking and preserving wild berries. 15 hens provide fresh eggs with little work on our part. After 1 year with our brotherhood, Bishop Daniel was elected Metropolitan of Vidin and returned to Bulgaria. Metropolitan Joseph blessed us to retain him as spiritual father of the monastery, and we keep close contact, traveling regularly to Bulgaria to visit him. Now our brotherhood has deep spiritual roots in Bulgaria, and we rejoice at every opportunity to visit its holy monasteries and the wonderful monks and nuns who become our spiritual family. With the blessing of His Eminence Metropolitan Joseph, during the Dormition Fast 2018, the novices were tonsured into monasticism and received new monastic names, Nathaniel and Joseph. With the approval of the Holy Synod of the Bulgarian Orthodox Church, Bulgarian Patriarchate, the newly tonsured monks were ordained hieromonks. This allowed the regular liturgical life at St. John the Baptist Monastery to continue. The service of monastic tonsure took place at the monastery in Warwick, where we welcomed our guests from Bulgaria, His Eminence Metropolitan Daniel, who performed the tonsurings and ordinations, Their Eminences Metropolitan Seraphim of Nevrokop, and Metropolitan Grigori of Vratsa, and Archimandrite Epiphani, Abbot of Rozhen Monastery, who served as our monastic sponsor. We were honored to be named after Metropolitan Nathaniel of Nevrokop, of blessed memory, and our beloved Derovladika Joseph. Over the next 4 days we were ordained to the diaconate and to the priesthood at Holy Resurrection in Boston. The monastery building is a farmhouse from the 1790s with a new 2-story addition. The Brotherhood moved into the addition and planned to do minor renovations on the rest to accommodate a chapel, bookstore, and guest facilities. Minor renovations turned into major reconstruction, as every part of the 200-year-old building, upon being opened, had to be rebuilt. Most of the monastery renovations are being done by the brothers, along with a handful of dedicated volunteer craftsmen. 1 year ago, our first contractor had to stop working. As we prepared to see construction grind to a halt, St. John sent us another craftsman with broad building experience. He had been attending services at Holy Resurrection and asked the fathers there how he could help. They sent him to us, and he offered to help us for the next 2 months. 1 year later, he has enthusiastically taken on all aspects of our construction. He is an integral part of our monastery and still comes from Boston to work with us about 4 days a week. The night before he became a catechumen, he received 2 breathtaking job offers, both of which would have taken him away from Boston and our monastery. He turned them down, and his catechesis and work for the monastery continue. Now the monastery has, unfinished, a chapel, narthex, guest bedroom and bathroom, a guest clergy bedroom, bookstore, and handicap-accessible bathroom, all connected to our current living space and trapeza. We are trying to finish the building's exterior before the winter. Work on 2 domes has already begun. Glory to God who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. We could not have started building this monastery without several large donations and countless kindnesses, large and small. Holy Resurrection in Boston continues to be like a mother to our young monastery, providing essential spiritual and material support. The daily life and growth of the monastery is supported by constant spontaneous gifts from people inside and outside the church. This spring, our diocesan sisterhood of Saints Mary and Martha and other friends of the monastery raised $20,000 for our building project in a little more than a week. St. George Monastery, Hadjidimovo, built custom mahogany windows for our chapel, and a Bulgarian company shipped them to the U.S. free of charge. 2 women from Holy Resurrection hand-sewed new altar vestments for the monastery. A parishioner from St. Innocent's Mission drove her car all the way from Virginia to donate it to the monastery, just as our old car seemed to be failing. Neighbors from Warwick donated an almost new chicken coop and 30 laying hens. Other neighbors repair our lawnmowers and tractor free of charge, stop by unannounced to introduce themselves and bring gifts to us, and local business owners donate funds and services to our building project. Engineers provide free consultations, and architects make free plans. 3 carpenters in particular spent uncounted days and weeks building our chapel and guest suite. We thank God for His blessings, and all members of the Bulgarian Diocese who contribute to the well-being of our monastery with prayer, labor, or in any other way. Please consider giving to the Monastery Building Fund to enable us to open the doors to the new chapel, bookstore, and guest rooms, and pray for the successful establishment of St. John the Baptist Monastery, for its brothers, builders, and benefactors, and all those who will come after us. Let it become a voice crying out in the wilderness, witnessing to the way of the Lord.